To seize my spot and get my younger sister into the palace, my biological mother sent me to be defiled by bandits. After I escaped, my biological father knocked me unconscious and sent me onto Prince Jong's bed. I became Prince Jong's only concubine, a blemish on the loving relationship between Prince Jong and his wife. As a result, my fetus was dug out, and I bled to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I attended the banquet at Prince Jong's residence. After finding the Emperor's resting place and climbing onto the dragon bed, I unexpectedly swapped bodies with the Emperor. Looking at my parents, who were kneeling on the ground and crying out for Prince Jong to take me as a concubine, I smiled. Prince Jong and his wife are deeply in love. There is no room for other women. I see the general still retains considerable charm. Why not have you marry into the prince's residence on behalf of your beloved daughter? Wouldn't that be the best of both worlds? 1. Your Majesty, my father was stunned. Absolutely not. I am a man. How can a man marry someone else? Then this matter need not be discussed further. My parents refused to agree, saying that I was now in Prince Jong's room and feared I had already become husband and wife with him. If I could not marry into the prince's residence, I could only be drowned in a pig cage and die. Can you bear to? I asked him. My father said righteously, Yun Chu was originally a palace maiden, now she has no regard for propriety and has had an affair with the prince, so she has already failed his majesty. The majesty of the imperial family is greater than a mountain. If my daughter dies to atone for her sins, that can also count as a meritorious deed. I too cannot bear to see the important matter of expanding the imperial bloodline delayed. Although this minister has only 2 daughters, after Yun Chu dies, I am willing to send my younger daughter Rong Chu into the palace, so that she may help His Majesty share the burden in place of her elder sister. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. As long as Shenrong's wish to enter the palace can be fulfilled, no matter whether I live or die, no matter what means are used, father and mother are willing to do it. They truly do love her. It wasn't until they saw my figure walk out from the inner hall that father and mother's expressions changed drastically. How are you here? Aren't you supposed to be? They suddenly came to their senses and fell silent. Shen Yunchu looked grim and said nothing. Giving me a meaningful glance, I pretended not to see him. Would someone who has already died once still be afraid of death? Yunchu is my imperial consort. Where else could she go? I wrapped an arm around Shen Yunchu's waist and kept groping her, issuing a clear order to leave. If you, my dear minister, won't go, do you mean to stay and interrupt my good mood? Wearing a skin that doesn't belong to him, he speaks with brazen arrogance. After all, it's not his own face that's being lost. My parents hesitated, and afraid of offending the emperor and inviting disdain, they ultimately slunk away in embarrassment. Shen Yunchu, when only Emperor Mo Changfeng and I remained in the hall, he no longer suppressed his anger and shouted at me, I am the son of heaven, the son of heaven's dignity. You've ruined my image. I pressed a small knife against my neck, able to die at any moment, and Mo Changfeng instantly lost his temper. He took several deep breaths and asked me, what do you want? Your Majesty saw it just now as well. My parents would love nothing more than to kill me to vent their rage. I can no longer return home, so this subject can only live on first for your Majesty. Mo Changfeng was furious, but there was nothing he could do about me, so he could only agree for the moment. Seeing how half-crazy I was, he worried I might take action against the Shen family and told me that I could not arbitrarily condemn court officials. Of course I knew that living in pain is 10,000 times more unbearable than death. I learned this lesson long ago in my previous life, at Prince Zhong's residence. In this life, I want them to suffer while still alive too. In my previous life, as the legitimate eldest daughter of the general's mansion, I was inexplicably abducted by thieves. I was missing for a day and a night. When I came back, my reputation was already ruined. Your father and mother are doing this for your own good. Although the butcher at the east end of the street is only a widowed pork seller, he dotes on people. My mother tried to persuade me patiently and earnestly. Mother knows that as a child of a military family, asking you to marry a pig butcher is indeed wronging you. However, although your innocence remains, your reputation has been ruined after all, let alone the sons of noble families. What ordinary household would be willing to take you? I watched her mouth opening and closing, but not a single word of reason got through to me. My daughter would rather remain unmarried for life than marry a widower carelessly. Besides, The emperor has not issued an edict to strip me of my status as a palace candidate. I refuse to accept it. There are naturally matrons in the palace who can verify my chastity and restore my fairness and innocence. The emperor is a wise ruler, and he will act as such. They had no way to deal with me, so they temporarily put the marriage matter aside and said no more about it. A few days later, on Princess Jong's birthday, my parents took me to Jong Prince's residence to celebrate her birthday. I thought they had come to their senses and no longer felt that my disappearance had disgraced the Shen family. I never expected what awaited me to be a fate of relentless torment. Halfway through the banquet, my father knocked me unconscious and sent me into Prince Jong's room when Princess Jong barged in with her servants, Prince Jong and I were lying in bed, our clothes disheveled. Prince Jong had always doted on his wife as if his life depended on it, something everyone in the capital knew. On her birthday banquet, her husband's bed was occupied by another woman. Anyone could understand how devastated she must have felt inside. Over the years, Prince Jong had no concubines, and she had gone many years without a child. My father then used this to advise the emperor, even risking his old dignity to have his legitimate eldest daughter take the position of a concubine. The general's manner has already yielded to this extent. Mo Changfeng cannot chill his minister's heart. He grants me the position of a side consort. No matter how wronged the princess consort of Jong may be, she can only grit her teeth and swallow it. Arranging for Prince Jong to take a side consort. Once I enter the inner courtyard, I will be the mistress of the household. If they mean to wear me down, who would ever stand up for me when serving tea? My hand trembled, and a cup of hot tea spilled all over the back of my hand, scalding it so badly that it was covered in blisters. On the night I entered the estate, by custom King Jong was supposed to stay the night in my room. Just as he stepped in, the princess consort's people arrived and invited him away for 2 months. I never saw King Jong again. Shun Rongchu took my place and entered the palace, granted a rank neither high nor low, becoming one of Mo Changfeng's first concubines. Luxurious clothes and fine food, glamorous and radiant at the time. I was still relieved that Mo Changfeng had not punished the general's residence, that my parents had not been implicated by me, and that my younger sister was living well too. It was the best outcome amid misfortune. There was not a single peaceful day in Prince Jong's residence, and I had accepted that, at least my family was doing all right until that sweltering day, when Princess Consort Jong summoned me again to attend her. A maid brought over a golden basin exuding a chill, saying, "Please trouble side Consort Shen to first place her hands into the ice basin. Once the heat has dissipated, you may then knead the Princess Consort's body." I knew the Princess Consort was deliberately making things difficult for me, and I could only comply. The cold seeped into my body, and for some reason, my lower abdomen began to ache terribly. Through the pain, I heard a maid cry out, "Consort Shen, you're bleeding." 3. The Princess Consort of Jong and I both lowered our heads at the same time, and saw red spots dotting our skirts. Her expression was extremely grim, and she summoned the estate physician to take my pulse. "Your Highness, the consort is not in any serious trouble, but there are signs of a possible miscarriage. You must rest and take proper care of yourself." The Princess Consort of Jong smashed her teacup on the spot. After I became pregnant, Prince Jong also took notice of me. He loved the Princess Consort very much, but he also seemed troubled by not having an heir. He placed great importance on the child in my womb. During that period, I lived rather comfortably in the prince's residence. After experiencing so many awful things, it was the last peaceful stretch of my life. It was not until Princess Jong entered the palace to see Shen Rongchu that she came back and said the child in my womb was not Prince Jong's own flesh and blood, but the son of a thief. Because her birthday was only a few days after I was abducted, she had failed to conceive for so many years. How could I possibly be that fortunate? She immediately ordered people to hold me down and cut open my belly to take the fetus. "Don't let this filthy thing soil the grounds of my Jong Prince's mansion." She ordered someone to bring a brazier and burn away the mangled little lump of flesh. I knelt at her feet, crying and begging her to give me back my child. "As long as the Princess Consort shows me special mercy, I am willing to take my child and leave the capital." It was already a formed boy. She refused. She feared that if it truly were Prince Jong's flesh and blood, they would still have to bury him in the imperial tomb. She could not bear that. By the time Prince Jong got the news and returned, my body was already long cold. The maid I had sent to the general's residence for help also had not returned for a long time. My soul drifted back to the general's residence, thinking I would see my family one last time, but I saw that after my father and mother heard the news of my death, they actually breathed a sigh of relief. Father said, "Better dead than alive and disgracing us." Mother said, "Given enough time, everyone will forget about her and only remember that our general's manor produced a noble lady." Father brought up the past and blamed Mother. "Look at the mess you made, you even let her escape back here," and completely shamed the Shen family. I only then learned that it was they who had ordered someone to abduct me, and they even planned to kill me after Shen Rongchu entered the palace. Yuna has a stubborn temperament and is hard to control, so she's basically useless. Ronga is filial and close to us, so she's naturally more suitable to enter the palace, so that's how it is. So that was how it was when I was worried that I would drag my family down. They were thinking of wanting me dead. No one was willing to dress me for burial except Mo Changfeng. It was also he who issued the decree to bury me, and ordered 2 jars of Osmanthus wine to be brought along and buried with me. We met a few times when we were young. I didn't expect him to still remember my preferences. When I opened my eyes once more, I was back on the day of Princess Zhong's birthday banquet. I headed straight for Mo Changfeng's bedchamber to find him. I had meant to ask him to back me up, but he had actually been drugged with an aphrodisiac and was out of his mind. For did you think I would sacrifice myself to save him? I only hesitated for a moment, then I pressed his head down and shoved him brutally into the icy water. After he came to, he was furious. He pointed at me and sputtered, "Why you," for a long while, then tripped over a wooden stool and fell straight onto me, bumping my forehead, and just like that, we swapped bodies. All right. I had already made up my mind to enter the palace as a concubine and use Mo Changfeng's power to climb higher, so that the Shen family would have to live by my moods. Now that I've been turned into him directly, that's just perfect. Mo Changfeng suddenly said, "Wasn't your father certain you were in Prince Zhong's room? Then the person in Prince Zhong's room now, who is it?" Just as he finished speaking, there was suddenly some commotion outside. Princess Zhong, as always, led the servants around searching for the missing Prince Zhong, only to catch Prince Zhong lying in bed with another woman. My mother's shrill cries of anguish were especially ear-piercing. "Ronga, how could you be here? What a sin!" My father looked utterly stunned, frozen in place, his lips trembling, but he quickly calmed down. "Quick, close all the gates in the courtyard. Not a single servant present may be allowed to leave." Shen Rongchu, draped in a robe, hid in my mother's arms. Prince Zhong was barely clad in a robe, coaxing Princess Consort Zhong from the side. In the previous life, when they discovered me and Prince Zhong, they didn't hesitate to ruin my reputation just to blow the matter up, forcing Prince Zhong to marry me. When it came to Shen Rongchu, they wanted to turn a major incident into a minor one and sweep it under the rug. How could I let them have their way at once? I led all the guests toward Prince Zhong's courtyard. Among the guests, some sharp-eyed ones spotted the disheveled Prince Zhong and Shen Rongchu at a glance. "Oh my, that's the second young lady of the Shen family, the general's daughter." Seeing such a grand scene, Shen Rongchu knew her reputation could not be saved. She fainted on the spot. 5. No one is allowed to look. My father roared, trying to drive people away, but after seeing clearly who it was, he swallowed his words. I pretended to suddenly realize and said, "So, my dear minister, when you just came before me, you were actually asking for the marriage of second Miss and Prince Zhong." My father kept shaking his head. "No, Your Majesty, they loved Shen Rongchu the most and absolutely could not tolerate their beloved daughter entering the prince's residence, even if it were only as a side consort. It was still just a nicer sounding title. In the end, she would still be a concubine. But so many nobles and prominent figures saw it. Shen Rongchu has already become Prince Zhong's woman, who would be willing to marry her as his legitimate wife." My father forcibly carried Shen Rongchu away. "The Shen family wants to hush this up, but I insist on spreading this matter throughout the capital." Before Shen Yunchu had even entered the palace, Mo Changfeng could only follow her back to the Shen residence. First, I secretly followed them back to the Shen residence and saw my father slap him across the face. Raging in fury, "Did you escape from Prince Zhong's courtyard?" Watching the slap land on Mo Changfeng's cheek, I was startled. My appearance shouldn't have been damaged, right? No. Mo Changfeng was the emperor who held the lives of all under heaven in his hands. He was likely someone who had never been so offended by anyone before. My father had not the slightest awareness of the murderous intent around him and went on talking to himself. Your reputation has long been ruined. You refused to marry into an ordinary family as a legitimate wife, so your father found you a match with royalty. So what if you would be a concubine? Roma is different. She has a bright future ahead of her. We can't just let it end like this. Yes, we can't just let this go. He grabbed Mo Changfeng's arm and said without allowing any argument, you go in Roma's place and marry into the Prince Zhong's residence. Mo Changfeng's face darkened. I have always known that father and mother are biased toward Shen Rongchu. My nature is stubborn, unlike Shen Rongchu, who is so sweet-tongued and acts spoiled with them every day. They taught me that Shen Rongchu was the younger sister, and that as the elder sister, I should naturally dote on and yield to my younger sister. Thus, all the things that had been mine alone ended up being sent to Shen Rongchu's courtyard. I had accepted all of this in order to snatch my spot for entering the palace and give it to Shen Rongchu. They did not hesitate to have bandits abduct me. If I weren't so quick-witted, I'd probably be suffering endless humiliation by now. What a vicious and ruthless scheme. My father has once again set his sights on me, and naturally I can't let him have his way. Not long after, rumors and gossip about Shen Rongchu and Prince Zhong spread throughout the capital. For the sake of her husband's and the prince's dignity, Princess Zhong could only pay a personal visit. I handed Mo Changfeng a letter and told him to make sure it was delivered to Shen Rongchu. Then I stayed in the room, listening to the news coming from the front courtyard. My mother knew full well all the twists and turns in the inner courtyard. She knew it was a pit of fire and didn't want Shen Rongchu to jump into it. Just as the atmosphere had grown deadlocked, a commotion suddenly broke out outside. Second miss, you cannot go to the front hall. Shen Rongchu ignored the attempts to stop her and rushed up to Princess Zhuang, saying loudly, I am willing to marry into the Prince Zhuang's mansion, as long as the princess agrees to 3 conditions with me. 6. What does the letter say? Mo Changfeng asked me. It says that the emperor is in my boudoir. The curious look on Mo Changfeng's face vanished instantly, and he scolded me for making a scene. But I knew Shen Rongchu. In her heart, power and wealth mattered more. She was destined to be unable to enter the palace, and she was entangled with Prince Zhong. Even now, the princess consort of Zhong had come to her door in person. If she missed the opportunity, she could only marry into an ordinary family as the prince's concubine. She was naturally the better choice. The princess had no son under her care. As long as her child was born, he would be the eldest son, and in the future he might even be granted the title of heir apparent by special exception. I brought Mo Changfeng into the palace. This matter caused a small stir in the capital. Everyone envies that both daughters of the Shen family married into the royal family. Shen Yunchu, though only a selected maiden, stays by the emperor's side, and her future wealth and honor are beyond words. Shen Rongchu is a consort of Prince Zhong, and with her maternal family backing her, she lives comfortably in the prince's residence. The truth is, there's no way I can really review the memorials. During the period when Shen Rongchu was preparing for marriage, she kept trying every possible way to enter the palace, and I placed an informant by her side to serve her. She pleaded in every possible way, I just want to see elder sister. I granted her permission to enter the palace to see Mo Changfeng, but she would intentionally or unintentionally run to my Zichen Hall whenever she was there. I ordered people to send stream after stream of gifts into Mo Changfeng's palace. Shen Rongchu looked on with jealousy, nearly tearing her handkerchief to shreds. After leaving the palace, she made things difficult for our parents. Why should elder sister receive the emperor's favor? She cried, tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms in the rain. Clearly, all the best things used to be mine. I can never lose. Shen Rongchu was determined to marry into the prince's residence in grand style, and the mere list of dowry items alone was enough to give father and mother a terrible headache. The general's residence only sounded impressive in name. How could it compare with the well-stocked national treasury on my father's meager salary? She wanted far too much. My mother entered the palace to find me and said matter-of-factly, as the saying goes, the eldest sister is like a mother, you're Roma's elder sister, and you're also a favorite by the emperor's side. The emperor has bestowed so many rare treasures on you, so you should take some out and give them to Roma as a dowry. She was so self-righteous that even Mo Changfeng's face darkened. I don't have any, he said. My mother was so angry she clutched her chest. You won't even listen to your mother now. Could it be that you want people to call you unfilial? Mo Changfeng smiled, hitting the nail on the head in one sentence. Right now, it's the Marquis's manner that needs to depend on me, not me depending on you. Even if I refuse to give it to you, what can you do about it? My mother's face flushed red, but she still didn't dare say anything too harsh and left in embarrassment. Mo Changfeng asked me whether I was always wronged like this at home. And I said nothing. In my opinion, all of these are just trivial antics. He simply held a flower viewing banquet in the imperial garden, and every noble young lady who attended would receive a gift from him. The others did not dare to accept it. This is an imperial bestowal. It cannot be casually given to others. Mo Changfeng then looked at me, and all I needed to do was nod in agreement. Thus, news spread through the capital once again about how dearly Shen Yunchu was favored, something unprecedented since the beginning of the dynasty. Perhaps she could even reach that highest position in the 6 palaces. People eager to curry favor with the Shen family nearly wore out the threshold of the general's residence. Seeing this, Shen Rongchu became even more jealous. When she threw a tantrum, the servants would be beaten and humiliated. If anything displeased her even slightly, they would be drowned in the pond. If even a chicken in the backyard crowed one extra time, she would claim she could hear it, then have the chicken slaughtered, its blood drained, and hung at the front gate. The official who came that day, carrying a generous gift and hoping to meet my father, happened to faint at the sight of blood and passed out right at the entrance of the general's residence. The entire general's residence was thrown into chaos. 7. My parents finally gave in and began selling off the shops to put together a dowry for Shen Rongchu. It's all my fault, always making father and mother worry about me. I'm not like sister, who can make father and mother so at ease. Shen Rongchu mentioned sister in her words, but her gaze kept falling on me. I felt terrible inside. It seemed that this damned torment should have been handed back to Mo Changfeng to endure, she said with a hint of shyness. Thanks to your majesty's gracious favor, Ronga has been able to marry the prince as a side consort. From now on, Ronga and your majesty will be family, even the princess consort of Zhu. I'm afraid, would not dare say she was family with the emperor. Although Shen Rongchu was beautiful, her mind was utterly empty. By the day she was to be married, the occasion was grand and imposing. Hundreds of servants carrying the good news ran all over the capital, scattering wedding candies everywhere, not even missing a dog hole. Her parents prepared a dowry that took up more than a dozen carriages, stretching on and on, truly stealing the spotlight. The more flamboyant she was, the more uncomfortable Princess Zhong felt. The so-called 3 rules were nothing more than requiring Prince Zhong to spend the 1st and 15th day of each month in her room, exempting her from the duty of serving the lawful wife, and allowing her to return home whenever she pleased. Almost every one of them touched the interests of the first wife, but Princess Zhong still gritted her teeth and agreed. When she returned home, Shen Rongchu was glowing with radiance, looking as if she had been doing very well. Of course, she beamed. The prince treats me very well, and the princess consort didn't make things difficult for me either. Shen Rongchu was smug. With my temperament and personality, of course I'd be welcomed wherever I go, unlike elder sister, who always keeps such a stern face and is annoying the moment people see her. Father and mother repeatedly agreed. Your elder sister is naturally not comparable. They prepared a table full of lavish dishes, all for the sake of welcoming Shen Rongchu home. After I married over in my previous life, fearing that I would implicate them, I never returned home again, and they, too, never sent even a single letter. Compared side by side, it only made my parents seem even more hateful to me, but they also never thought about it. If it weren't for Shen Yunchu being favored in the palace, how could Prince Zhong and his wife possibly be so pleasant and courteous? I hid under the Osmanthus tree, drinking away my troubles. Mo Changfeng followed the scent and found his way over without saying a word. He just kept snatching my wine to drink. Only after the wine pot was drained to the last drop did he speak slowly. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is not my biological mother. I know that the current Empress Dowager is Prince Zhong's birth mother. She raised Mo Changfeng to adulthood, and in the end watched him ascend the throne with her own eyes, while her biological son became merely a prince. Neither my father nor my mother loved me. I've been like that since I was young, he said, but in the end, the one who sat on the throne of supreme power was me. Having come this far, I suddenly feel that, in many cases, Longing for illusory love is far less useful than the power held in one's hands. Before power, human nature cannot withstand temptation. I suddenly realized that Mo Changfeng and I had arrived at the same idea independently. In 5 days, it would be my birthday, and Mo Changfeng said he would host a grand celebration for me. I laughed at him. You certainly know how to enjoy yourself. Won't you still be the star of the birthday banquet then? My parents were invited into the palace to attend, while King Zhong brought Shun Rongchu to the banquet alone. I heard that Princess Zhong had smashed quite a lot of things at the manor. At the banquet, cups were exchanged back and forth amid the clamor of drums and music. The graceful dancers swayed to the drumbeats, and with a sweep of their water sleeves, they stole my father's soul. My dear minister, both of your daughters are already married, and you have no sons serving by your side. Why don't I make the decision for you? How about you recognize Louis as your adopted daughter? Lu Yi was the daughter of a condemned minister. When her entire family was executed back then, the late emperor spared her because she was so young. As compensation, I had my father promoted one more rank, making him extraordinarily pleased. My mother clutched her handkerchief, grinding her teeth so hard they nearly broke. My father, on the other hand, was grinning from ear to ear. Good, he took Louis as his sworn daughter. Less than 2 months later, it was heard that Louis was pregnant and had been elevated to a concubine. 8. Shun Rongchu entered the palace to find Mo Changfeng and said angrily, "Sister, now that vixen has climbed into father's bed, and mother has been driven sick by it, aren't you going to do anything about it?" Mo Changfeng calmly brewed tea, and with one sentence, rebuffed Shun Rongchu. "The emperor has decreed that Louis be sent into the Shun family. What happens after that is the Shun family's business." Seeing Mo Changfeng's composed and unruffled demeanor, she even wanted to slap him herself. She was stopped by the palace attendants. "Consort Shun, you must not be disrespectful to your superiors." Shun Rongchu left in a fury. Originally, with Shun Yunchu favored in the palace, the general's residence was already enjoying prestige. On top of that, my father had been promoted, and in his old age he had another son, so more and more officials came to offer congratulations. They took my father out to patronize wine and women, and my father seemed to have tasted the benefits of it, taking in one young and beautiful concubine after another. My mother flew into a rage at him and smashed things. He said calmly, "Madam, the emperor is right. After our daughter is married, only you and I will remain in the household, and it is indeed a bit lonely, now that I've taken concubines. They can keep you company and play with you. I gave birth to 2 daughters for you. They're both successful now, and you still dare to treat me unfairly." My mother was furious. My father opened his mouth and immediately started with, "The emperor has issued an edict. The emperor is considerate of his ministers. The emperor is right. It's all the emperor's will." She couldn't win against my father. My mother could only have a word or two in the inner courtyard. Once outside, she still had to read my father's face. The couple's relationship was in tatters. My mother shut the courtyard gate and stayed inside, refusing to come out, while medicine was carried into the house pot after pot. Even when Shun Rongchu came home, she still refused to see him, all because Shun Rongchu looked more like my father. My father deliberately turned a blind eye, and the time he spent returning to the Shun residence grew shorter and shorter. Later, he even stayed the night at Hongxiujia and no longer came back to the Shun residence. He even dared to drag Prince Zhong along. Prince Zhong refused to go. "Prince Zhong is indeed devoted," I said with a cold laugh. Mo Changfeng was reviewing memorials when he asked me, "Who told you he was devoted?" Sometimes, seeing is not necessarily believing. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, so I secretly sent people to investigate Prince Zhong. The result shocked me. It turned out that Prince Zhong had at least a dozen mistresses living outside his household. While I was reviewing the intelligence, Mo Changfeng walked in carrying a bowl of warm mung bean syrup, glanced at the paper in my hand, and curved his lips in a smile. Still smart enough to keep an eye out and secretly investigate, not too stupid. I casually snatched the imperial brush and held it across my neck. "Say that again." Mo Changfeng immediately behaved himself, respectfully handing the mung bean syrup to me. "Please enjoy it. Drinking sugar water alone is pointless," I said. "Tell me a story to liven things up." Mo Changfeng forced out an ugly smile. "What would you like to hear, master?" I asked him to tell me about Prince Zhong. From Mo Changfeng's account, I learned that Prince Zhong's so-called deep affection had indeed been real, but only in the past. The princess consort of Zhong had never been able to conceive, and the Empress Dowager was very anxious. She forced the Prince of Zhong to take concubines. At the time, Zhong was young and impetuous, and had a very good relationship with the princess consort of Zhong. He even swore that he would never take a concubine for the rest of his life. That year, the matter spread like wildfire, and all the women in the capital envied the princess consort of Zhong for finding such a good husband. But as the years passed, only the Prince of Zhong had no offspring. He finally got anxious. The Empress Dowager sensed her son's thoughts and found him a concubine, keeping her outside the residence later on, without the Empress Dowager having to take the initiative. Prince Zhong himself began keeping concubines outside as well, in the outskirts of the capital, in every direction. Prince Zhong had residences specially used for keeping them. Hear that? It's rather lamentable. I did the math in my head, and more than half the year had already passed. Fine, so I had butted heads with Mo Changfeng hundreds of times and still hadn't switched back. But why was there still no sign of Shen Rongchu's pregnancy in my previous life? I conceived on the first try, yet she still had no news after so long. I was still utterly baffled by this. Just 2 days later, my informant came back with a message: Consort Shen is pregnant. 9. Shen Rongchu's treatment was much better than mine in my past life. In my past life, the Shen family was, to me, as if it did not exist. Although Shen Rongchu entered the palace, she never once came to pay her respects to me, her elder sister with no family backing me. The princess consort of Zhong dared to bully me wantonly. In this life, Shen Rongchu not only married into the prince's residence in glory, but could also enter and leave the imperial palace at any time, with her natal family backing her. Prince Zhong valued her even more. She is pregnant, and Prince Zhong actually wants to hold a banquet to celebrate. I told Mo Changfeng. Mo Changfeng froze for a moment, and scalding water splashed over his entire hand. Your hand. I rushed over to wipe it for him, then ordered the palace attendants to bring ice for him to hold. All of you, leave. I asked Mo Changfeng what was wrong. He asked me back. Prince Zhong has kept more than a dozen mistresses, and there is also a princess consort in the manor. Yet after all these years there still hasn't been a child. Do you think the problem lies with Prince Zhong, or with the other women? What he said sent a chill down my spine. If Prince Zhong was infertile, then who was the father of my child? Can you be sure that Prince Zhong is indeed unwell? I stared at Mo Changfeng. In this world, all sorts of impossibilities can happen. What if? Mo Changfeng shook his head. Children who grew up in the palace knew a great many secrets. He told me that the late emperor had once favored Prince Zhong and his mother too much, which had made them the target of resentment. Prince Zhong had gone missing for a period of time. When she returned, her body had already been damaged at its roots, and she would never be able to have her own child. In this lifetime, the late emperor was worried that the Empress Dowager and Prince Zhong would be greatly traumatized if they learned of this matter, so he chose to conceal it. Back then, all the imperial physicians who knew the truth were silenced at that time. Mo Changfeng was worried about his elder brother, so he went to his palace to look for clues. Seeing a group of people coming aggressively, he was so frightened that he hid and overheard everything. For this very reason, no matter how much the late emperor favored the Empress Dowager, he still had to think of the stability of the state and pass the throne to Mo Changfeng. That then how did the child in Shen Rongchu's womb come to be? Go to the banquet and see for yourself. Mo Changfeng showed no concern, but I was different from him. Naturally, I could not sit idly by and wait. My eyeliner stayed by Shen Rongchu's side day and night. How could I possibly not know whom she had met? I had the person secretly brought into the palace. She racked her brains and recalled. This servant did indeed follow side consort Shen day and night, and I never saw any man other than the prince. But then she suddenly reacted. Besides, aside from consort Shen returning to the general's residence, whenever she rested in her boudoir, she would always have us all withdraw. After finding the breakthrough, I ordered people to investigate secretly until the adulterer was caught. The day of the banquet also arrived. 10. Although Shen Rongchu was pregnant, there were no signs of pregnancy discomfort. With a radiant smile, she stood on the left side of Prince Zhong, while the princess consort of Zhong stood on his right. My parents had also come. Though both wore smiles, they had aged quite a bit. My father looked as though he had indulged in excess, and the exposed skin on him was dotted with small red marks. It looked rather frightening. My mother was covered in the smell of medicine, with a darkened complexion between her brows. It seemed she had indeed been badly angered. By the time Mo Changfeng and I arrived, they were holding Shen Rongchu's hand and showering him with concern. It was a painfully glaring sight. "Oh, Yuna is here." The smiles on their faces turned false, utterly different from the concern they had shown Shen Rongchu just moments ago. Once I had walked a little farther away, they immediately pulled Mo Changfeng over and instructed her, "Ronga's pregnancy is very important. If she can safely give birth to a son, then no one in the prince's mansion will dare bully her in the future. As the elder sister, you should take good care of her. In mother's opinion, Prince Zhong's consort is not trustworthy. Bring your younger sister into the palace to rest and recover during her pregnancy, and only then will mother be at ease." Their words were astonishing, and Mo Changfeng's expression darkened. "I have not yet been granted any official rank in the palace, and now I'm bringing the prince's concubine into the palace to carry her pregnancy there. Won't people in the world wildly speculate about the reason behind this? If people come to believe that Shen Rongchu's child is the emperor's, or that the emperor does not want King Zhong to have an heir, then once something happens to Shen Rongchu's pregnancy, Mo Changfeng will surely be saddled with a terrible reputation. They want to kill me, and they're even dragging Mo Changfeng down with me. Your Highness loves your daughter so much, nothing will happen." Shen Rongchu stepped in to mediate, looking shyly at Prince Zhong. King Zhong smiled and nodded, replying to her from afar. I heard someone say, "Ah, this consortion is truly blessed." After all these years, Princess Zhong still hadn't conceived, yet she became pregnant first. Of course they can't be compared. Consortion is still young, while the princess is already old. If her child turns out to be a boy, then he'll truly be showered with countless favors and affection. Shen Rongchu had clearly heard it too, and the corners of his mouth were almost stretched to his ears. Consort Zhong's expression was nowhere near as pleasant. She had been holding herself back the whole time. It was not until the Empress Dowager's gift arrived. Since Mo Changfeng ascended the throne, the Empress Dowager had long since faded from view, spending her days worshipping Buddha and remaining uninvolved in worldly affairs. Yet Shen Rongchu had actually received a gift from her. This shows that the Empress Dowager values her highly. As long as the child can be safely born, replacing the princess consort of Zhong is just around the corner. She knelt on the ground, unable to hide the excitement in her eyes. This concubine thanks the Empress Dowager. The princess consort of Zhong could no longer hold back, and her face suddenly turned extremely ferocious. She kicked Shen Rongchu hard in the lower abdomen. Everyone was frozen in place by the sudden turn of events. "Ronga!" My mother's heart-rending cries echoed through the sky above the prince's residence. She held the blooded Shen Rongchu and cried out, "Quick, summon the imperial physician." 11. Shen Rongchu's child was gone. Prince Zhong flew into a great rage and wanted to deal with that poisonous woman. Princess Zhong remained calm, though tears fell from her eyes. "Since I was 13, I have known you. At 15, I privately pledged myself to you. Even when everyone opposed us, I was determined to marry you." The Empress Dowager forced my family to their deaths. I thought it was all right, at least I still had you to love me. But what about you? She suddenly raised her voice. "You actually kept a concubine all these years. If someone hadn't sent them all to the prince's mansion, I don't know how long you would have kept deceiving me. You even got Shen Rongchu pregnant. You betrayed our relationship." Prince Zhong was still somewhat moved when he heard her bring up the old days, but when he heard about the outside woman and the child, his whole body went completely cold. "You know full well how long I've been hoping for a child," he shouted angrily as well. "I only wanted one child. It's not as though I haven't treated you well. Why would you harm this prince's child?" He kicked Consort Zhong in the abdomen in the same way. Princess Zhong laughed wildly and madly. She said, "Your child can only be born by me. No matter which woman gets pregnant, I'll kill her as soon as she comes. You poisonous woman." Prince Zhong could no longer hold back. He snatched a guard's sword and held it to Princess Zhong's neck. After miscarrying, Shen Rongchu was very weak, but still limped out. She gripped the hand of the Prince Zhong and said fiercely, "If your highness shows mercy, the next one to die will be our child." Prince Zhong hesitated and even looked at me. I lifted my teacup and took a sip. Today's grand spectacle was truly satisfying to watch. I said, "This is my younger brother's family affair. I will not interfere." Prince Zhong closed his eyes. The Minute Clan woman deliberately harmed others and intended to kill this prince's concubine, causing the death of my unborn child. I absolutely cannot tolerate such a vicious woman. Guards, take her away and lock her up. He ordered someone to take the princess consort of Zhong away and lock her in the rear courtyard, forbidding her from going out again. The princess consort of Zhong laughed uncontrollably, saliva dripping from the corners of her mouth as if she noticed nothing, shouting all the while about killing him in a stream of incoherent nonsense. She was utterly deranged, truly gone mad. Seeing that the time was about right, I ordered the person to be brought up. After Shen Rongchu clearly saw the face of that person, his expression changed drastically, and his whole body trembled as he leaned into my mother's arms. I glanced at Mo Changfeng. He said, "Why don't we just let all the guests go back first?" After all, he still cared about the royal family's dignity. But as soon as he spoke, my parents refused. "Why should all the guests leave? What could possibly be something shameful? Your sister has already suffered a tremendous grievance today. I want everyone in the capital to know that my poor child was bullied." The Prince of Zhong also said it was unnecessary, but his brows were tightly furrowed as he asked me what I meant. Mo Changfeng said calmly, in front of His Majesty, "Do you want to confess everything truthfully and in detail, or do you want to be thrown into the dungeon and, after being tortured, confess everything truthfully and in detail?" The man didn't even think before crawling forward a few steps on his knees. I'll tell you. The child in Shen Rongchu's womb is mine." 12. The crowd around them erupted in an uproar. Prince Zhong's expression changed completely. He kicked the man on the shoulder. "What nonsense are you spouting? The emperor is here. If you utter even one lie, that would be deceiving the emperor and defying the throne, punishable by extermination of your entire clan." Mo Changfeng spoke the most ruthless words in the calmest tone. The adulterer was so frightened that he trembled all over and confessed everything. Consort Shen had never conceived and was very distressed about it. After making inquiries in many places, she eventually found me and asked me to help her become pregnant. "After it's done, I can get 100 taels of silver." Prince Zhong naturally did not believe it. I directly took out the final letter left by the late emperor back then and handed it to Prince Zhong. Inside, it was written clearly and plainly that, according to the imperial physician's diagnosis at the time, Prince Zhong would never have children again in this lifetime. Impossible. If this were true, then over all these years, when the imperial physicians came to take my pulse, how could not a single one of them have noticed? I said, "Everyone in the Imperial Medical Bureau has only one tongue. Since Father Emperor doesn't want you to know, how would anyone else dare say anything?" Prince Zhong stood holding that sheet of paper, frozen for a long while. Then suddenly he let out a shriek. "Ah!" He viciously tore the paper into pieces and scattered it into the sky. "All of you, get out of my sight, get out." A banquet that had originally been a joyous celebration was turned into this, and the guests all slipped away faster than rabbits. But what happened today was destined to become a topic of gossip over tea and after meals for others. King Zhong regretted it bitterly and wanted to win back Princess Consort Zhong. One night, Princess Consort Zhong ran out, fell into the pond, and was gone. He wanted to give her a grand burial. I swapped out Miniature's corpse and threw it into a mass grave, an eye for an eye. She had cruelly killed my child back then, and now she had come to this end. It was her own doing. On the way to transport Miniature to the Imperial Mausoleum, a group of black-clad men sprang out and attacked. Prince Zhong was shot to death by a hail of arrows on the coffin while trying to protect Miniature. After hearing the news, the Empress Dowager fainted and never woke up again. When Prince Zhong first learned that Shen Rongchu had been having an affair, he was so furious that he scratched her face. Later, he still did not divorce her, leaving her to fend for herself and waste away in the prince's residence. Without an imperial physician to treat her, her face rotted away completely. She wanted to beg her parents for help, but the Shen family could barely protect themselves. My father contracted a venereal disease and passed it on to the concubines in the household. My mother was deeply worried, and in the end, she too was infected before they died. Both of them were covered in ulcers all over their bodies, suffering so much they wished they could take their own lives. I had people watch them day and night, never giving them a chance to kill themselves, so they would endure all the torment before dying. They still wanted to see me. Mo Changfeng asked me whether I wanted to go. Wasn't that a pointless question? Of course I'm not going. After they died, they were hastily cremated and that was the end of it, leaving only Shen Rongchu alone in this world. She had wanted to turn to me for support, but that day I had a long talk with Mo Changfeng, and when I stood up after we finished, my legs had gone numb. As soon as I stood, I fell straight onto Mo Changfeng, and with a thud, my head hit its back. I was worried that Mo Changfeng would come after me for revenge, but I never expected him to be willing to let me stay in the palace. Whether you want to leave or stay, I'll agree to whatever you choose. Maybe I was seeing things, but I actually saw a look of anticipation in his eyes. 10 days later, the prospective consort Shen Yunchu died suddenly. From then on, only Shen Rongchu remained in the Shen family. As for how she would survive in the days to come, I had no way of knowing. I left the capital and traveled around the country. I did not know who the father of my child in my previous life was. I only learned that on the night of the Duchess of Zhong's birthday banquet, besides Prince Zhong, the only person who could enter the inner residence was Mo Changfeng. I remember that night, Mo Changfeng had been drugged and wasn't even clear-headed himself. Besides, even if I wanted to investigate further, I could no longer find the him from my previous life, but none of that mattered anymore. All I know is that I now have only 5 years of life left. When I bumped heads with Mo Changfeng back then, I distinctly heard a voice say that exchanging souls required a price. The chosen one has some bond with me. Now that the knot in my heart has been untied, I want to extend the remaining 10 years of my life to Mo Changfeng. He is a good person. Knowing that I only have 5 years of lifespan left, he told me that if I was unwilling, we could think of other ways. I accept. I was already a dead man. To begin with, not only did I get 5 extra years of life for nothing, but I also got to watch my enemy die in agony with my own eyes. This is already heaven's grace. I cherish every second of being alive and have witnessed all the myriad forms of life in this world. On the last day of my life, I walked back to the capital once again. The capital had long since changed beyond recognition, and the grudges and enmities of the past had also dissipated with the wind. A disheveled woman stumbled into my arms. "Kind-hearted sir, please have mercy, spare me some food." I thought that since I was going to die anyway, and all my silver was already spent, I only had a few plain steamed buns left in my arms, so I gave them all to her. She was overjoyed and looked up to thank me. "Many thanks." I recognized her at a glance. Shen Rongchu. After she clearly saw my face, she kept fiddling with her hair to cover her own face, and kept backing away. She hadn't run far before she was knocked down by the beggars in the alley. "Run, run, run, you ran into your daddy." They snatched away her steamed bun. In the law of the jungle, Shen Rongchu could only hand it over to them. It seemed she regretted it and ran up to me again. "Sister, please save me. I never want to live like this again." She clutched my hand tightly. "In this world, no one is closer than we are. We are flesh and blood, bound by kinship. Please forgive my past immaturity." I smiled and pulled my hand back. "Sorry, but I'm going to die today." Shen Rongchu's expression changed. "Impossible. You look so healthy and rosy. How could you be dead? Don't think you can fool me." Sis, I really know I was wrong," I said. "If you don't believe me, just stay with me for one day." Before I died, I leaned against a osmanthus tree once again. I may have looked healthy on the surface, but I could clearly feel my life slipping away. At the very last moment, I seemed to see Mo Changfeng appear before me, carrying 2 jars of osmanthus wine. He said, "In this life, I came at just the right time. Your favorite osmanthus wine. Every year on your death anniversary from now on, I'll bring you 2 jars." The faint ambergris scent on him was deeply soothing. His voice also softened. "Shen Yunchu, live more lightly in your next life." After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After being betrothed to the great villain Xiao Cheng, I thought I could control him with the love brain system I carried. Little did I know my system was fake, while his mind-reading ability was real. For over a decade since transmigrating into this book, I've been lying low for just as long. Thanks to my deliberate low profile, life has been quite comfortable. Unexpectedly, the old emperor, on a whim, arranged my marriage to the second prince, the great villain of the book, Xiao Cheng. He is both talented and handsome, with extraordinary strategic skills, yet he is merely a whetstone arranged by the emperor for the crown prince. The more he contends with the crown prince, the faster he hastens his own demise, and I am to marry him. The whole family rejoices, my parents even shedding tears of joy. They marveled at how I A young lady who would rather lie down than sit than stand, and had no proficiency in any of the 4 arts of zither, chess, calligraphy, or painting, essentially a good-for-nothing, had finally managed to get married, and even had the incredible luck to marry well. They had no idea how worried I was. Marrying any other man would have meant stepping into the grave of matrimony, shackled by its chains, but marrying Xiao Cheng, that was truly stepping into a grave. I lean on my chin by the window, watching the clouds gather and drift in the sky. System, besides selling love addiction pills, do you have any other functions? I ask again, unwilling to give up. System, dear master, you've been asking for over a decade. Even if you're not tired of it, I'm tired of answering. My heart is dead. This useless system. Back when I first transmigrated into the book and discovered I had a system with me, I thought I was destined for great things here. But I never expected this worthless system only produces love-addled divine pills. As the name suggests, whoever consumes this divine pill will become utterly devoted to the first person they see, turning into a love-struck fool. My mind raced, feeding Xiao Cheng a love-struck divine pill wasn't entirely out of the question. With a love-struck mind, a little pillow talk could convince him not to compete with the crown prince, and his life would be spared. I'm such a genius. Excitedly slapping the table. System, give me a love brain elixir. I've tested the effects of this elixir when I was young. My father was infatuated with a courtesan outside and actually wanted to redeem her. As a civil official, if he did such a thing, he would be criticized. My mother was so anxious that blisters formed at the corners of her mouth. He may not like me, but he cannot tarnish the reputation of the Ministry of Personnel and affect my son's future marriage prospects. At that time, I was only 3 years old and thought my mother was worrying too far ahead. Coincidentally, I wanted to test the divine elixir produced by the useless system. When my father returned to the mansion, I added it to his tea and made him drink it. Then they locked my father and mother in the room. By the time the two of them opened the door again, my father's eyes were glued to my mother, and that so-called courtesan was long forgotten. The love-addled divine pill from the system was truly extraordinary, fast-acting and long-lasting. My parents have had a very strong relationship for over a decade, giving me 3 younger brothers in just 5 years. The 2 of them were deeply in love, and their story became a beautiful tale in the capital, envied by many. But I've never even met Xiao Cheng, so how could I possibly feed him the divine pill? At this thought, I lost heart and slumped back onto the table. I never thought I'd get to see Xiao Cheng, but to my surprise, he actually asked to meet me on the top floor of Yipin Tower. I sat face to face with Xiao Cheng. As the legitimate daughter of the minister's residence, I maintained a dignified posture and impeccable etiquette. Xiao Cheng truly lived up to the rumors of being as handsome as Pan An, his dark robes accentuating his jade-like complexion. This appearance, I liked it. I kept my expression neutral, but inside I was screaming wildly. Xiao Cheng personally poured a cup of tea and handed it to me. Try it, it's this year's new harvest. I thanked him, calmly accepted the tea, and let my gaze subtly sweep over his hand. Long, with distinct knuckles. It was a beautiful hand. My heart leaped with joy. I nodded gently and spoke softly. Indeed, this is fine tea. Truth be told, I didn't understand a thing overall. These years, despite my efforts to integrate into this ancient world, I had failed to master any of the refined arts: music, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, wine, or tea. Every day, I would hole up in my own courtyard reading storybooks, and occasionally I even wrote a bit about the love between 2 men. As for drinking tea, for me, it's like a cow drinking water. I don't appreciate the finer points. A smile spread across Xiao Cheng's lips, and in an instant, his entire face lit up, making the whole room seem to glow. My pupils dilated, and I couldn't help but feel my heart flutter. My heart was screaming wildly, oh my God, to die under the peony is to be a ghost of romance. The ancients truly did not deceive me. On the surface, I maintained a calm and indifferent demeanor. You and I are to be married soon, Your Highness. Xiao Cheng took a sip of tea and continued, I would like to ask if Miss Lin is willing to marry me. Xiao Cheng's voice was cool and magnetic, making my heart flutter with distraction, yet his question left me at a loss for how to respond. After a moment's thought, I replied in a measured tone, the prince and I were betrothed by His Majesty's decree. I am deeply grateful and naturally willing. If you have someone you truly care for, I certainly have ways to annul the engagement. My goodness, as expected of the great villain. He even dared to refuse a marriage arranged by the emperor just like that. I shook my head, feeling rather anxious. No, I have no one I admire. I spend all my time in the inner chambers and hardly ever see any men. Xiao Cheng's smile grew wider and wider, and I could almost feel his joy. That's good. The guard came in and gave Xiao Cheng a message. He glanced at me and said, Miss Lin, my apologies. I need to attend to some official business. With that, he left the private room with his subordinates. Gazing at the cup on the table, I fell into deep thought. This was a perfect opportunity. System, quick, give me a love-addled brain divine pill. When Xiao Cheng returned, my hands hidden under the table were still trembling. I found an excuse to send away the maids and guards by my side. Xiao Cheng looked at me with confusion. Miss Lin, what is it you wish to discuss with me? I stammered for a long moment. You should have some water first. Let me gather my thoughts. Xiao Cheng picked up the teacup. While I guiltily let my eyes dart around, I couldn't tell if it was just my imagination, but it seemed he hesitated for a moment before downing the tea in one gulp. It's all gone, probably. Got thirsty from talking too much outside. I was ecstatic inside. No matter what, the big villain had already swallowed the love-addled divine pill. I stared at him without moving a muscle for a long while. There was not the slightest change. My heart sank. System, is this medicine of yours expired? I was puzzled. System, impossible. It has a shelf life of 100 years. Then this must be fake medicine. Look, Xiao Cheng hasn't changed at all. System, impossible. Products from this system are genuine and trustworthy for all. A conflicted expression appeared on my face. Xiao Cheng furrowed his brows. Miss Lin, can you speak now? I pursed my lips, deflating in an instant, utterly wilted. Your Highness, this humble subject thinks you are as handsome as Panan. After a long while, I finally managed to squeeze out a sincere remark. Xiao Cheng smiled, reached out his hand to rest on top of my head, and patted it gently. The tone was both doting and helpless. My eyes lit up. This was a success, right? Xiao Cheng's gaze was sharp, resting unabashedly on my face. Since you're willing to marry me, I'll have the imperial astronomers pick the nearest auspicious date. The sooner I marry you, the sooner I can rest easy. I was screaming inside. System, I misunderstood you. This medicine of yours is really, truly real. I looked up at Xiao Cheng, his gaze deep and profound, as if he wanted to devour me whole. I couldn't help but shrink back. Xiao Cheng's expression instantly froze, the smile at the corner of his mouth vanishing without a trace. Even his tone grew several degrees colder. You don't want to. I quickly shook my head. Your Highness, just make the arrangements as you see fit. As I said this, my face grew warm. I was truly blushing now. Xiao Cheng laughed heartily, his magnetic voice ringing out above my head. I stole a glance at him with my eyes, only catching sight of his Adam's apple bobbing utterly seductive back at the estate. I gleefully rolled around on the bed. System, did you see that? Xiao Cheng is absolutely top tier. System, show some restraint. You useless system, useless for over a decade, finally showing some use. System, be a good person, speak properly. I ignored the system. The maid announced that my mother had entered the courtyard, and I hurriedly straightened my clothes. All right, mother knows perfectly well how you usually are. My mother walked briskly, and when she saw my appearance, she looked utterly disdainful. Seeing you so radiant, smiling like a peach blossom, you must be quite satisfied with the prince. I nodded. Mother, the prince is truly handsome. Is this your first time seeing the prince? I thought for a moment, then nodded. Mother said in a tone of exasperation, every time there's a banquet, you either decline or just focus on eating. I retorted, Mother, you know very well that your daughter has no talents to speak of. My mother let out a deep sigh. The prince has sent word that he has chosen a date, and it's next month. I thought the wedding would at least be next year, but I never expected the prince to be in such a hurry. My mother's gaze fell on my stomach. You and the prince haven't done that, have you? I understood instantly. Oh, my dear mother. How would I dare? We are completely innocent. Perhaps your daughter is just too charming. I added in my mind, that's the power of the love-addled brain elixir. The days passed neither too quickly nor too slowly, and soon it was the day of my wedding to Xiao Cheng. There was a whole heap of tedious formalities, and after the wedding ceremony, I was so exhausted I wanted to just collapse on the bed in a starfish pose, but I still sat upright on the edge of the bed, waiting for Xiao Cheng. I thought it would be late into the night, but unexpectedly, Xiao Cheng came in after just a short while. He lifted the bridal veil. I could clearly sense a flash of admiration in his eyes. I felt a secret pride in my heart. Though I may lack talent, this face of mine does have a certain charm. However, it's nothing compared to Xiao Cheng today, dressed in his wedding attire. The red fabric set off his porcelain white skin, making him look like an enchanting spirit. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Xiao Cheng chuckled softly. Satisfied, I nodded, realizing what had happened. My face instantly flushed bright red. Xiao Cheng poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to me. We linked arms and drank. With this nuptial wine, from this day forward, we are united as husband and wife, sharing one heart until our hair turns white. Xiao Cheng held me close, whispering softly in my ear. The warmth of his breath brushed against my skin, tickling me. I couldn't help but shy away. He held me even tighter. Where do you think you're going? A magnetic voice, warm skin, and I melted completely. Like a puddle of water, Xiao Cheng's hand gently glided from the top of my head to the ends of my hair. From my neck down to my back, I clung to Xiao Cheng, breathing rapidly. Too shy to speak, Xiao Cheng's lips pressed against my ear. Ching, what did you put in my teacup that day at Yipin Tower? Instantly, I felt as if I had plunged into an icy abyss. I forced a stiff smile, my words stumbling out haltingly. Your Highness, that day, you knew I had put something in your tea. Xiao Cheng stepped back, his gaze fixed on me, his face expressionless, his eyes dark and unreadable. I only felt a chill rising up my spine. System, I'm going to die. My mind raced, thinking of how to explain, so anxious that my palms broke out in sweat. Xiao Cheng laughed out loud, reaching out to flick my forehead. Did I scare you? In an instant, the solemn and tense atmosphere vanished. I let out a sigh of relief, pursed my lips, and said hesitantly, since you knew there was something in it, why did you still drink it? Xiao Cheng leaned in close to me, planting a light kiss on my lips. Even if it were arsenic, I'd gladly take it. My heart pounded like a drum, and I froze in place. Is this the power of the love-addled brain elixir? But something doesn't seem quite right. Xiao Cheng's kiss landed at the corner of my lips, his hands resting on my waist. Tonight is our wedding night. Ching, don't let your mind wander, all night long. I didn't have time to think too much. I was too exhausted to move, and as the sky grew bright, the time for serving tea was approaching. Xiao Cheng's arm was wrapped around my waist, his gaze fixed intently on my face, like a lurking beast. My legs were trembling. Xiao Cheng sighed. Forget it, I'll let you off for now. I gritted my teeth. Look at you. Is that even human language you're speaking? If we miss the tea-serving ceremony, I'll be the one to blame. Xiao Cheng smiled at the corner of his mouth. It's fine. Mother Consort has repeatedly reminded me that heirs are the priority. Everything else is unimportant. Even so, I still trembled as I stood up and, together with Xiao Cheng, paid our respects to the consort dowager. The consort dowager looked kindly, taking my hand and saying repeatedly, Good. No wonder Chenga likes you. My face flushed with shyness. No way, Xiao Cheng, you've been telling everyone you have feelings for me. More than a month of shameless days passed, during which Xiao Cheng never brought up the incident at Yipin Tower again. I wanted to talk to him about it several times, but I didn't dare. In this era, having a system on you would probably be seen as something strange. Xiao Cheng sensed my worries and whispered in my ear one late night, Ching, you don't need to overthink things. Some matters, you can speak of them if you wish, and keep them to yourself if you prefer not to. Similarly, some things, you can do them if you want, and leave them be if you don't. After all, I'll be here to support you no matter what. I was deeply moved. With the crisp autumn air and clear skies, the autumn hunt was approaching. I shut myself in my room, racking my brains before transmigrating into the book. I hadn't paid much attention to these plot details, focusing only on the romantic scenes between the male lead, the crown prince, and the female lead. But I remember the autumn hunt as a highlight. On that day, the great villain Xiao Cheng would arrange an ambush to assassinate the crown prince, but the clever female lead would expose him. The emperor would then banish him to guard the southern border, where he would later die. If Xiao Cheng goes to the southern border, I must go too. If he dies, I must die as well. At this thought, my chest felt tight and uncomfortable. Scratching my head, I grew restless and uneasy. After court, Xiao Cheng went straight to his study these past few days. He has often been discussing matters with his advisors in the study. I suspect it concerns the many arrangements for the autumn hunt at night. He quietly lies beside me, holding me close. I turned over, nestling into his embrace, and gently nuzzled against him. Xiao Cheng chuckled with delight. Why aren't you asleep yet? Were you waiting for your husband on purpose? His hand caressed my waist. In the past, I would have surrendered long ago, but today, with something weighing on my mind, I had no inclination at all. I reached out and wrapped my arms around his waist. What has my husband been busy with lately? Xiao Cheng reached out and tapped the tip of my nose, teasing with a smile. Are you blaming me for being too busy and not spending time with you? My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. I wanted to be straightforward with Xiao Cheng, yet I feared he might think I had ulterior motives. I hesitated back and forth, feeling that no matter what I did, it would be wrong. I could only mumble into his embrace. After thinking for a moment, I still spoke up. Did His Majesty assign you to oversee the autumn hunt? Could you? I looked up at Xiao Cheng. Could you not do those things? Xiao Cheng's hand paused, a flicker of depth passing through his eyes. My heart is uneasy. After all, Xiao Cheng is the great villain in the book, with deep and intricate thoughts. Although we have been in harmony these past days, we have never truly opened up to each other. Our relationship remains only on the surface. I don't want to die, nor do I want Xiao Cheng to die. After a moment's thought, I added, I only wish for us both to live safely until our hair turns white. A flicker of delight passed through Xiao Cheng's eyes. As he gently stroked my head, suddenly, he sighed softly. Ching, I value my life more than anyone, but there are some things I must do. He left a kiss on my forehead. What I'm doing is exactly what you think. You have to believe me. Xiao Cheng's words left me unable to guess or understand. What I wanted most was for him not to get involved in the prince's power struggle, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. He covered my mouth. Be good, don't overthink it. My woman only needs to do whatever she wants without a care in the world. I'll handle everything. I never even considered that position. I stared at Xiao Cheng in disbelief, my eyes wide. He understood. Xiao Cheng blinked, pointed to his own ear, his eyes full of mischief. Whatever you're thinking, I can hear it all right here. Now I was truly stunned, my heart pounding with nervousness. This wasn't entirely impossible. In Blue Star novels, many male and female protagonists had mind-reading abilities. My face flushed red. Oh my God, then all those times I fantasized about Xiao Cheng in my mind, he must have heard every single thought clearly. I felt like I wanted to die. I buried my face into Xiao Cheng's embrace. Xiao Cheng chuckled. Just teasing you. Ching. Being so shy. Are you feeling guilty? You must think of me often, don't you? With that, he rolled over. The autumn hunt had arrived. The sky was just beginning to lighten, with the first faint glimmers of dawn, as we set off by carriage toward the royal hunting grounds. In the outskirts, from a distance, I spotted the male lead, the crown prince, and the female lead. True to their reputation as outstanding figures among men, they stood out in the crowd like cranes among chickens. Xiao Cheng held a book in one hand and sipped tea with the other. Noticing me leaning out the window and gazing intently, he asked calmly, "What are you looking at?" Ching, the crown prince. Without a second thought, I answered quickly. After speaking, I felt something was off and grew a bit awkward. Sure enough, I noticed Xiao Cheng's expression darkening slightly. Is the crown prince more handsome, or am I? I gave an embarrassed smile. Of course, my husband is more handsome. After speaking, she straightened her chest and adjusted to a more perfect sitting posture. I was merely curious about the crown prince. What I'm even more curious about is the wonderful story between the crown prince and Yi Qianna, the most talented woman in the capital. A teasing smile appeared on Xiao Cheng's face. Just speak as you normally would, no need to put on such a serious expression. I prefer your usual lazy and carefree demeanor. Just be yourself. My heart itched with curiosity. This Xiao Cheng always seemed to understand me so well, but I had never met him before, let alone spent time with him. Xiao Cheng looked up, his expression nostalgic. Speaking of which, I saw you when I was a child. Back then, you also put on the proper demeanor of a legitimate daughter in front of outsiders. Flawless in every way, but in private, you were mischievous and clever. I pointed a trembling finger at Xiao Cheng. Do you really have some kind of mind-reading ability? Xiao Cheng smiled without saying a word. Just then, the royal hunting grounds arrived. and everyone began to enter one after another. The autumn hunt soon began, with the crown prince, Xiao Cheng, and the various ministers scattering in all directions. The emperor, now advanced in years, no longer participated, instead, holding his newly favored consort as he drank from the high platform. I kept my head down, nibbling on fruit in small bites, trying to make myself as inconspicuous as possible. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling of a probing gaze fixed on me, sending a chill down my spine. I thought to myself, I've never made friends with anyone, let alone made enemies. Suddenly it occurred to me that at this moment, I no longer represented the legitimate daughter of the minister's residence, but the princess, consort of Xiaocheng. He has enemies. Even the sweetest fruits tasted as bland as chewing wax. Suddenly, from deep within the hunting grounds came the loud cry of a guard. Assassin, the crown prince has been attacked. I was so startled that the fruit in my hand fell, and my whole body trembled. Xiao Cheng has finally made a move against the crown prince. The crown prince was helped back by Xiao Cheng, having only suffered a fright with no serious injuries. However, today, all the people he brought with him, the guards who were protecting him, are dead. Your Majesty was furious, throwing a wine cup in front of Xiao Cheng. Second brother, I entrusted the autumn hunt to you, and now such a major oversight has occurred. You cannot escape responsibility for this. Some members of the Crown Prince's faction claimed it was a deliberate setup, their words directly pointing to Xiao Cheng. The female lead cleverly uncovered evidence. The leader of the assassins carried a faint trace of incense, unique to the second prince, Xiao Cheng. The emperor was furious, stripped Xiao Cheng of his actual power, and exiled him to guard the southern border, with his family and attendants accompanying him. Everything unfolded just as it did in the novel. I straightened my back, not letting anyone see a trace of fear. Xiao Cheng offered no defense, only kowtowed in gratitude. With the dust settled, the female lead suddenly flashed me a triumphant smile. She's just got to screw loose. The next day, after packing our bags lightly, we set off for the southern border. At the 100-mile pavilion on the outskirts of the city, an unexpected person was waiting for us. It was the female lead, Yi Qianna, wearing a hat and veil. She asked Xiao Cheng to step down from the carriage for a word. Xiao Cheng patted my hand and said, "Come with me." I looked troubled. This doesn't seem quite appropriate. As husband and wife, we are one. Some things should be heard together. I followed along, and Yi Qianna's face showed a mix of shame and anger. Why must you bring her here to humiliate me? I was completely baffled. Miss Yi, if you have something to say, speak quickly. I still have to hurry on my way to the southern border. A smug expression appeared on Yi Qianna's face. Xiao Cheng, do you regret now refusing to marry me back then? Without my help, you've ended up in such a state. She looked me up and down with a disdainful gaze. You rejected me, just to marry such a pretty face. You truly have no eye for talent. I was happily enjoying the drama on the side. So Xiao Cheng and the female lead had such a history. It's just this. No personal attacks. Okay. Xiao Cheng shielded me behind him, his expression blank, his tone cold. Yes, I do have feelings for Qingqing, no matter what she's like. Yi Qianna's face flushed with anger. I only said one thing, and you're already protecting her like this. Her sinister gaze fell on me. Xiao Cheng, you have no power. Let's see how you can protect her. Sooner or later, you'll come begging to me. With that, she stormed off. I was left with a face full of confusion. The carriage traveled beyond the capital's boundaries, yet Xiao Cheng remained as unemotional as ever. I was growing increasingly anxious inside. Are you really going to the southern border? What exactly are your plans? Qingqing, don't worry, no matter what, I will protect you. I punched him in the chest. At a time like this, you're still saying useless things. Xiao Cheng reached out and wrapped his hand around my fist, pulling me into his embrace. It's just a show for that one above. Xiao Cheng pointed his index finger upward, and I understood instantly. Doesn't he enjoy watching the Crown Prince and I fight? We'll put on a performance for him. Those who died in this autumn hunt were all the spies he placed around the Crown Prince. Of course he's angry. A mocking smile tugged at the corner of Xiao Cheng's lips. I widened my eyes in disbelief. So, you and the Crown Prince are openly at odds, but secretly cooperating. Xiao Cheng nodded. To be precise, I'm helping him ascend to the throne, and in return, he's promised me something else. I blinked my eyes. Now I'm confused. The rumors in the streets say you fought fiercely with the Crown Prince for the throne. Xiao Cheng laughed. It was just a smokescreen. To fool that one. You really don't want to sit on that throne. Xiao Cheng's smile faded, a trace of sorrow flashing in his eyes. What's so good about that position? A lonely ruler, all alone. My mother was deeply devoted to him. Yet in the end, she was left utterly broken. When I was young, I too once admired and looked up to him. But in order to consolidate his imperial power, he orchestrated many schemes, pitting me against the crown prince. I reached out and embraced Xiao Cheng, comforting him. You have me. I always felt that something was off about everything, but I just couldn't figure out where to start. System, are you there? You've been unusually quiet lately. Is there something troubling you? Calling out to the system in my mind, it took a long time before it replied. Master, I've encountered something major, the system stammered, and my heart tightened with anxiety. I'm not a romance system. What do you mean? It's just that what I produce isn't a love-addled divine elixir, you useless system. It took you over a decade to realize you're not a romance system. I cursed the system wildly in my heart, my breathing growing ragged. Xiao Cheng stood by, stifling laughter as he patted my back to help me catch my breath. Although I am not a romance system, I am a longevity system, and what I produce is the longevity pill. Get out. And as I calmed down, I also realized where that sense of unease had come from. I glared fiercely at Xiao Cheng, still not telling the truth. Xiao Cheng poured a cup of tea and handed it to me. Calm down, Tilda, he sighed, his face full of doting affection. Truly, like master, like system. I showed an expression of realization. So, you've known my secret all along. You can even hear my thoughts. Xiao Cheng nodded. When I was 5 years old, I sneaked out of the palace and ran into your parents taking you out for a stroll. I discovered I could hear the voice in your heart. What an interesting girl. Your parents dote on you. Your family's bond is truly wonderful. It makes me envious. After that, I snuck out of the palace to see you every year. The older you grew, the more clever and quirky you became, yet you put on such a proper act whenever outsiders were around. Back then, I thought to myself, how interesting it would be to spend a lifetime with a girl like that. A brilliant smile spread across Xiao Cheng's face as he kissed my forehead. Thank goodness I married you. I stared at him in disbelief. You had your eyes on me that early. Xiao Cheng nodded. I got up from his embrace and sat to the side. Let me sort this out. So, first, the love-addled brain divine pill is fake. Second, you can hear my inner thoughts. Third, you've liked me for a long time. Xiao Cheng nodded with affection. Oh my God, what is all this? I fell backward, and Xiao Cheng caught me precisely. So I know Ching Ching wanted to use the love-struck elixir to change my mind, to keep me from participating in the struggle for the throne. Xiao Cheng wrapped his arms around my waist, nuzzling my ear. I also know that you often think about this piece of sturdy meat of mine. My face instantly flushed with embarrassment. I haven't paid any attention to Xiao Cheng for several hours, yet he shamelessly came over. Aren't you curious about Yi Chenna? Ching Ching. My curiosity was piqued, probably because I transmigrated into the book. The plot has completely gone off the rails. If you want to talk, I'll listen. If you don't, I'm not particularly interested either, I replied with a haughty tone. All right, it's me who wants to tell you that Yi Chenna, I don't know what she sees in me, but she secretly asked her aunt, the imperial consort, to have the emperor arrange a marriage. I've long had feelings for you, so of course I refused. I originally intended to spare her some dignity by sending a message to explain that I already have someone I care for. Who would have thought she'd try to force the issue? So, I devised a plan and shifted the matter onto the crown prince. Xiao Cheng looked at me with a pitiful expression, his eyes pleading. I cleared my throat lightly. Poor crown prince, so devoted to her, wearing that green hat. Xiao Cheng sneered. What true feelings exist in the royal family? I glanced at him, and he quickly corrected himself. Except for me. What deal did you make with the crown prince? Marry you. You are the legitimate daughter of the Minister of State. And marrying you is no easy task. If I hadn't agreed to the crown prince's autumn hunt, he would have surely done everything in his power to obstruct it. But weren't you and I married by the emperor's decree, that still required the crown prince's faction to push for it? Our emperor cannot bear to see any prince gain the support of his ministers. The art of ruling, he wields it masterfully. I rubbed my temples. It's too complicated. I can't understand it. Xiao Cheng seized the opportunity to pull me into his embrace. You don't need to think about it. Leave those complicated, messy matters to me. Just read the storybooks you love, write the tales you enjoy, and be the top talent at the Xiaoxiang Pavilion. Me, it's all true. There's no way to argue against it. On the way to the southern border, we encountered several assassination attempts, all of which were eliminated by Xiao Cheng. He held me close. Are you afraid? Ching Ching. I shook my head. Ever since I married him, I knew the future would be like walking on thin ice. Who sent all these people? The Crown Prince. Xiao Cheng sneered. He wants me dead, but does he think that one would agree? That one sent me to the southern border precisely to consolidate military power. Finally, we arrived in southern Xinjiang. The borderlands are harsh, yet they possess a unique beauty of their own. Apart from the dryness, I adapted quite well. Xiao Cheng became busy as soon as he arrived here, leaving early and returning late. And I also want to do something for him. System, are you sure you're currently a longevity system, producing longevity pills? I looked skeptical. After all, the useless system is quite muddle-headed. Absolutely certain and sure. Although the frontier economy is not as prosperous as the capital, there are still many wealthy local gentry. With wealth comes the desire for a longer life. I changed my name and disguised myself, taking the longevity elixir to auction. I even had an elderly man, who was barely breathing, try it on the spot. The old man immediately stood up on his own and downed several cups of wine in a frenzy. The longevity pill was auctioned off for a sky-high price. I also published many novels under the pen name of the nameless recluse at the bookstore, such as The War God Prince Falls in Love with Me, which sold like hotcakes. Almost every young lady secretly bought a copy. When Xiao Cheng returned to the mansion, I was sitting on the bed counting my silver, laughing wildly. He shook his head helplessly. If I ever become a commoner in the future, I'll have to rely on my wife to support me. I patted his shoulder. No problem, no problem. The borderlands were remote, with high mountains and distant waters, and no familiar faces around, so I lived quite freely. But the day to return to the capital would always come. A message arrived from the capital. The emperor was critically ill and had specially summoned Xiao Cheng back to the capital. I only know that dangers lie ahead. Along the way, we were pursued relentlessly, with no end in sight. Xiao Cheng even got injured while saving me. I cried until my eyelids were swollen. Don't cry, it hurts me to see you like this, I sniffled, holding back my tears. Can't we just give up the fight for the throne, hand over our military power, and live as idle princes? Is that not allowed either? Xiao Cheng laughed with bitter irony. Ching Ching, sometimes our very existence is a thorn in someone else's side. Upon arriving in Kyoto, the emperor was already on the verge of death. The male lead, the crown prince, and the female lead, now the crown princess, had long been waiting outside the hall. Upon seeing us, their faces turned ashen, yet they wore hypocritical smiles. Second brother, you have finally returned. We encountered assassins on the road and were on the brink of death. The ministers kept their eyes downcast. Only my father slightly raised his head to look at me, his face full of concern. The crown prince raised his hand, and the imperial guards surrounded us. Second brother, I fear that some may take advantage of the situation to cause trouble. Taking precautions in advance shouldn't be a problem, right? Xiao Cheng nodded. With a smile, I held his hand. No matter what, I am here. During this time, I spent a fortune to hire top experts from the martial world, ensuring that if any danger arises, they would protect our lives at all costs. Now that the experts were standing by our side, I felt a bit more at ease. Xiao Cheng gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. Sure enough, as the funeral bell tolled, the crown prince couldn't wait to have us killed before the experts could strike back. Another group surrounded the imperial guards and the crown prince, and the imperial guards by the crown prince's side instantly turned against him. I was utterly bewildered. Xiao Cheng winked at me and whispered in my ear, General Qin, the commander of the imperial guards, is one of my men, the kind of friend you trust with your life. So, how are you going to wrap things up today? I asked. The atmosphere was tense, with swords drawn and bows bent, yet Xiao Cheng remained calm and unhurried. Ching Ching, do you wish to ascend to the highest throne with me, or live a simple life in obscurity? No matter what, I will protect you. I gripped his hand tightly. That's the matter of imperial succession, yet you make it sound so simple. Xiao Cheng sneered. The imperial throne is nothing more than that. I glanced at my father in the crowd, then looked at Xiao Cheng, pondering for a moment. Empress, I've never been one before, but you must promise me, the harem can only have me, if you ever take someone else in the future. I'll leave you and go find 8 or 10 handsome men. The more I spoke, the darker Xiao Cheng's expression grew. He said fiercely, I'll deal with you when we get back tonight. In truth, I understood clearly only by ascending to that highest position could Xiao Cheng fully protect our loved ones. For a commoner, to speak of protection, how could it ever be easy? My future is also a gamble, betting that Xiao Cheng will not change his heart. What followed went surprisingly smoothly. The chief eunuch by the emperor's side stepped forward and announced that the imperial edict had passed the throne to Xiao Cheng. Whether it was true or false no longer mattered. Xiao Cheng ascended the throne, and I was named empress. The male lead, the crown prince, voluntarily requested to guard the imperial mausoleum. I knew he was being imprisoned. The female lead, the crown princess, fell gravely ill and died on the way to the imperial mausoleum. The ending of the male and female leads in the book turned out to be like this. Truly lamentable. Xiao Cheng was very busy. I asked him if he needed to take some concubines into the harem to balance the various factions at court. He shot me a glare. Ching ching, don't tease me. If you're bored, go update your storybooks. There are plenty of people waiting for them outside. You. Xiao Cheng didn't even lift his eyelids, his gaze still fixed on the memorial in his hand. I don't need those methods. With my abilities, I can handle both internal and external affairs. I gave him a thumbs up. Only then did he shift his gaze from the memorial to look at me. Be good. If you're really bored, go out of the palace to have some fun. Don't worry, I'll send people to protect you. I propped my chin on my hand and looked at him. Don't you need me, as your empress, to do anything? Xiao Cheng smiled and said, no need, as long as you are happy every day and have the energy to do what you want, that is enough. I couldn't hold back the smile on my lips, and I ran over. In a few quick steps to hug Xiao Cheng and give him a kiss. His gaze instantly deepened, and I quickly jumped away. I'm going home for a while. Your Majesty, you can get back to your work. Don't call me Your Majesty, call me husband. I don't like those cold, formal titles. I curved the corners of my lips into a smile. Ever since we first met, Xiao Cheng has always referred to himself as I in front of me. Perhaps this is his own unique kind of romance. No matter how the world changes, he bears the burden, while I live carefree behind him. Back at the minister's residence, my mother was resting in the courtyard, and my father was painting her portrait beside her. Seeing me return, my mother said she would personally cook a few of my favorite dishes. I crept up to my father stealthily and stammered, Dad, do you remember when I was little, there was a time when you were infatuated with a courtesan? My father was so startled that he dropped the pen in his hand. He quickly covered my mouth and looked around nervously. After confirming that no one was around, he let out a long sigh of relief and finally released me. Do you want to get your father killed? Why bring up the one thing that shouldn't be mentioned? Ever since the system told me that the so-called love-addled brain elixir was actually the longevity pill, I've been extremely curious about how my father came to change his ways and devote himself wholeheartedly to my mother. Father, what is the secret to the harmony between you and mother all these years? My father, at his age, sighed deeply to the sky, looking somewhat pained. That matter with the courtesan was nothing but a fabrication from the start. I was merely enduring humiliation to carry out my duty and investigate the affair. Somehow it reached your mother's ears, and I nearly lost half my life. I opened my mouth wide. My mother is that fierce. Did she hit you? My father waved his hand. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's not talk about it. The past is too painful to look back on. No matter how I tried to pry, my father wouldn't say a word. I had no choice but to ask my mother. My mother looked smug. Men, they need to be trained. 3 days without a beating, and they'll be climbing up to tear the roof tiles off. Mom, did you really hit Dad? My mother cleared her throat lightly. Not exactly. I just found something uneven for him to kneel on. I roughly understood it was like kneeling on a keyboard or a durian. My mother leaned closer to me and whispered in my ear. With men, you have to give them a slap first, then offer a little sweetness. My mother looked somewhat awkward, pausing for a few breaths before continuing. Besides, you have to wear him out completely, so he won't have the energy to think about going elsewhere. I instantly understood. I gave my mother a thumbs up. Brilliant, you're a master, but this trick wouldn't work on Xiao Cheng. I was always the one trying to run away after hearing the stories above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.